Welcome to another Railroads Online Showcase video, I guess. I don't know if I want to make this part of a showcase series or just a general rambling video. The thing is, I started a new playthrough on the Mesa Plains map because I wanted to check it out for myself. I had my first idea on how the playthroughs would be going here due to the terrain and what I could see at first glance. But I think it's always worth just trying it out for yourself, and so far I think I've been pretty much right on the money, at least as far as my own opinions go. But yeah, I want to show you guys what I've built here so far and also my own custom industry layout. I mean, I haven't really been playing on the default layouts for quite a while, and with this map I wanted to see if I could find a few interesting spots for different industry placements, and yeah, we're going to see how that all went down. Besides all of that, well, here's the pier. There are a few things I wanted to talk about regarding the state of the game in general right now. And starting with the pier, I mean, it looks great at first glance. I have a few issues with it. Part of it is its functionality. I tried bringing over a train loaded with grain and straw bales and unloaded at the depot here. It just doesn't really work, and yeah, I left the last session very frustrated. Returned today, tried out something, and oh my god. The problem was I was trying to unload at the platform over here, right next to the building, as you do on other industries and that kind of thing. And what I found out today is, well, let's get back to the train. What you have to realize with a sandbox game is that the world is your oyster, and in this case, the entire pier is your unloading platform. So yeah, let's open up the player menu thingy, and let's see, I can unload here, and yes, I'm getting paid for this. As long as it lands somewhere on the entire pier and actually hits the ground, if it gets low enough, it's getting picked up. I don't need to align the track here with anything. I don't need to go anywhere specific. Just drop it off somewhere around here. I tried looking into getting my own platforms placed here just from the props menu, but they are a bit too high. So if I want to make this look a bit more purposeful, just having a row of platforms here would mean not being able to unload on those anymore, because the cargo once dropped off the car doesn't get low enough to be registered. I don't know. This took me way too long to figure out, and I'm still kinda baffled because what the hell? Yes, this is supposed to be an industrial pier. So it makes sense that you can maybe put this stuff down wherever, but I was really expecting to have to deliver it to the end here. So yeah. Anyways, let's get into the track layout that I have here. I figured out the correct height for everything, and I just placed it down like that. And yeah, my main concern was lining up the stuff with the platforms over here. I mean, I need it for the seat pallets. By the way, this is the only freight depot I have on this map. I decided against having a regular depot as well, because I think that would completely undermine the existence of the pier, and it's one of the main features of the map here, so yeah, gotta go down here. But yeah, I lined up the track over here. I had to make a weird little bend because, well, I have a three-way switch right here, and on this side it goes directly into another switch. And this is for future usage. I want to be able to bring the loaded or empty cars down here. I mean, I can pretty much unload anything anywhere I want. Didn't know it at the time when I was building this. But yeah, I want to disconnect the engine, put it onto this track so it's out of the way. And at that point I can take my, likely gonna be a small porter or something, take it from here, connect it to the cars, tear the terrain apart, and just bring it over here in order to load the seat pallets. Again, initially I thought I would also need that in order to unload something at the depot here. In hindsight, it's not the worst thing not having to go here for everything, because the platform is kinda short and it would have been tedious. Maybe I can figure out something on this end to make it look a bit more proper. But yeah, the thing is, if I didn't have this weird little bend, if this track was or the switch here was lining up with this track, then this one would be so close to the edge that the train would likely run into the crane here. Maybe I could have switched it over to the other side, but I built something on the other end here, which would be kinda tough to recreate. I want to have an extended platform over here to place on a turntable so I can turn the engine around and leave facing forward. Honestly, this entire pier is kinda weird in that way. I was considering to maybe lower it down in Railroad Studio. Shouldn't be much of a problem. I can actually move this entire thing around. But I think then the boat would also be lower in the water, and that might not look all that great. But yeah, the pier is basically like 3 meters tall or something. There is no ladder, no ramp, no staircase to get on here, so it's kind of completely unusable. And also it doesn't really end on even ground or something. So any extensions like this you need to build up for, and this ramp up to the actual ground level over here, once we go past the lower shoreline. This is a 2.5% grade. So this is kind of steep. Given that, unless you are going down there for seat pallets, you should be leaving empty, so it should be alright, but I wasn't really expecting that. For a moment I was also considering just going to the side over here and then trying to use this little incline to slowly and more naturally go up there, but I eventually decided against it. Maybe I'll do that someday, but right now I want to have something a bit more straightforward. Another option would have been to, from the end of a pier, go down to the ground level here. Definitely less of a height difference, but, well, going around the long end. I mean, the track here goes into a Y. One side down to the cattle farm, the other up to the wheat farm. And going around the long way, that would have been kind of a not so nice detour. I don't know, it's just not for me. Maybe I could have gone around here, or who knows. Or maybe something like this. I don't know, this is just a really awkward placing in my opinion. I was actually considering to maybe, and I think Railroad Studio updated now, so it might be possible. I could potentially move the entire pier over to this end. And that might be an option. The thing is, on that part, the dev team actually cut out the invisible walls, the end of the map here, in order to make that fit. And for the most part, if I was to put the pier right here, I couldn't get any further than this, so that would be unusable, but I think this entire thing kind of widens up a little bit towards this end. Yeah, no, I don't think that would be a good idea. Unless I place it at an angle. So something like this here, that might work. I don't know, would have to play around with it, and I'm not entirely sure if it would end up being better. I think the ground here is a bit lower for the most part, or might be going up a bit more gradual. But yeah, everything up here is the same height level as at the end of that mega bridge that I built there. So not too sure. What I know though is that the boat is actually following the pier. So if I move the pier, the boat will follow along and the path will be adjusted. It might end up going through some mountains or something if I do it wrong, but it's not impossible to make work, I think. But yeah, that's gonna require a bit more playing around with. And I would preferably do that on my new PC because that thing doesn't struggle with tapping in or out of the game, where the old one, well, is struggling to run the game at all. But yeah, we'll have to figure that one out. Anyways, over there we have the cattle farm. We have a big Y here so that I can do some of the farm industry chain. I just wanted to give that another try with the adjusted payouts to see how that's working out. And so far I can say, yep, it's definitely viable now. You just have to take care that you don't invest into something stupid. If you buy a faster engine early on and you don't get any car that can hold either the straw bales or the grain, ideally you want to have both, you might be running into a problem because the water and the seed pellets cannot be unloaded at anything but those industries that need them. And therefore you only have a limited capacity on how many you can deliver before you need to deliver something else. If you only do that kind of stuff, you might soft lock yourself unless you place on another industry. Because once everything is full on that, you need to be able to transport something else, because that stuff just cannot be delivered to the freight depots. Anyways, following the track along over here, we come over to the wheat farm. Very simple layout. Actually has a Y behind it because, well, this is how I turn the train around. But also this would be how I get up to the stamp mill. I still fail to understand why the dev team, when placing down the industries, just put this one freestanding somewhere. It's not that hard finding a decent place for the back, just so that it looks like it's connected to something. But yeah, that really looked like zero effort on the devs team, or the dev team's part. And the thing about my custom layout here is that I had two objectives. One of them failed. The one that failed was trying to make the industries placed in a way that I don't need to go everywhere on the map. You see that some of them are very far south. This one is all the way to the northwest edge of the map. I mean, I definitely want to keep the pier, so it had to be somewhere around here. I could maybe once again move it right there. But yeah, I don't think it's too interesting just running trains for hours on end without any grade or anything like that. It's just gonna be kinda boring. So I didn't really care about utilizing the map that much for my attempt. However, what I cared about was getting a few slightly more interesting industry placements here. And yeah, as I mentioned before, the map isn't really made to have a lot of options for you apart from put it somewhere in the valley where everything is basically the same height level. Apart from there being a slight plateau over here, but most of the rest is really very even. Apart from some of the really stupidly high parts on the mountaintops, which would be a weirdly long climb, and yeah, there isn't really any reasonable, slightly more difficult position, or at least there aren't that many. So yeah. In order to have a bit of challenge here, in order to have some interesting industry placements, I sadly needed to utilize most of the map, and therefore some of the paths are a bit longer than I would otherwise like them to be. But I tried to balance this out a little bit in order to not have like things going across the map for one delivery or something. Doesn't always work because some of the industries need to be in specific locations in order for them to work out well and achieve other properties that I wanted. But I think overall this is a mostly decent compromise. I put the ironworks on a slightly higher plateau, and I mean, look at this thing. The height difference isn't bad, but for some of the stuff I would have liked to go quite a bit higher than this, and For this one to be already a standout position, you know how it's standing for most of the other stuff. Another thing where the dev team should have maybe taken a bit more time is the dredge. The default industry placements don't have a dredge on this map, and I think the reason for that is pretty simple. There is something to do with the water, where by default you cannot place anything on the water. The dredge, however, is partially a boat, and they didn't make an exception for this on this map. So the dredge that I placed there is actually mostly on land. We are gonna take a look at that right now. And I think the devs made the map, then realized this stuff, and then just decided to not have the dredge because, hey, we have the gold mine and we don't necessarily need both. Should have still had both, but hey, that's just me, I guess. But yeah, if I try to place on another dredge, it starts at the water because I was looking at that. But I can really move it around on the land. You know, it would have been so easy if they just made the center of where I place it part of the platforms. So instead of being centered on the boat itself and being able to put the platform into the water, I would be centered on the platforms and put the boat in the water. But as it is right now, I cannot go further than this. And if I try, it's not even going to allow me to place it. Doesn't work with this weird little thing they made for the sawmill either. Maybe if I put it over here, it can kind of look alright, but yeah. This is something where I think I need to go back into Reo Studio and just move it a bit further south. And then it should be fine, but as it is right now, yeah, that's just not how it should be. Also, I found a neat little location here for the iron mine. So you're gonna come either from the side over here or around the other side, which would be a bit illogical. Or you're gonna try and find your way through this hilly part and then go down to the regular area. And yeah, this is also one of the mountains that has a tunnel through here. This thing is incredibly long. We start over here and go the entire way to this part. But yeah, it's also a very direct connection from my wells over here to the other part. And I think I forgot to talk about the sugarcane cars. We'll get back to those in a moment. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do a little demonstration up here. We are just gonna get a bit of a straight track over here, maybe a stopper in the end. I think that might be useful. And then we are gonna have a little bridge over here. This is gonna become very apparent on why I'm doing this in a moment. Right now it looks like absolute garbage, but trust me, it has a purpose. Because now we can go in here, we can take one of these. Actually, I would like to have two because I kind of need both for the demonstration. Because they changed how the coupling works. And we are gonna have a look at that in a moment. I just need to put this on the ramp so I can have it roll down. Otherwise I would need an engine up here. The thing is, it's in a weird height mode. If you're using link and pin, your coupler is gonna look like this. If you switch over to automatic couplers, you can already see in the background that something gets added on. Because it doesn't replace the initial coupler, it adds this little weird looking adapter. And this is of course much longer. So what we've done now, and I'm gonna show you guys in not automatic coupler mode. They changed the hitbox of the cars, and if you are using link and pin, you're now getting a much longer coupler instead of the regular loop thing. And the hitbox of the cars has been adjusted, so if we let them roll together, and yeah, that's the reason for the entire ramp, they are not gonna kiss. This is how close they can be together now, and that's about it. So yeah, in my opinion, they just made the entire thing much worse. Of course, if we go back to automatic couplers, it works. This looks okay. But for link and pin, it's not great. So instead of having their stupid little adapter thing, and then coming up with the whole link and pin adaptation here, just how about you find a way that it works for both versions? These cars have been such a problem for such a long time in so many ways, and now they, just for 1.0, they added another thing on top of everything else. Enough about this. Yeah, the reason why I showed you guys over here is that if you remember my other playthroughs, I like to actually place down all the wells right next to each other, spaced out in a way that if I come in here with the larger water tank cars, I can line up the cars with the wells. One car over here lined up with the spout, one car in the middle lined up with nothing. The third car will be lined up with the second well, the fifth car with the last well, and everything behind that is waiting for its turn. It's making loading the stuff much more nicer and easier, and it's a blast. This is actually making the industry fun to use, in my opinion. The thing is, since all the cars, I mean the sugarcane cars, now have this longer pin in here, I can no longer line up the small cars. The small water tank cars usually went like first car lined up, second, third, and fourth over here, fifth car lined up, 6, 7, 8, 9 over here, 10th car lined, 10th car also, I don't know how many, there are 3 in between, and maybe it's the 9th car over here, I may have miscounted. Not entirely sure. Anyways, basically, the long cars are twice as long as the short cars, so you need twice as many short cars, but it will line up and you can use it the same way. Now that the links are longer, this no longer works, so yeah. Kinda sucks. Long story short. Anyways, yeah, there is a runaround over here, turntable at the end, very standard, very demure. Let's follow the rest of the track back to the starting point. This thing is part of the track that I'm really only using once, because I need to get from the starting location over to the first industry. And just to try out how well the new payouts work, I decided to go with the wheat farm and all of that again. Logging camp is also over here, so that would be much shorter to reach, and yeah, the sawmill is just around the corner there, so that's actually maybe a bit more easy to handle. And due to my low graphics settings, I'm not getting any shadows inside that area. Usually it would be pitch black in there. But yeah, not on these settings, so I'm not gonna give them any flack about that. Anyways, we have another Y over here to turn around and also connect to potential other industries. And the starting industry here, where you spawn in, is now the oil field. I just felt it was a neat location. I don't like freight depots being in the middle of a map. Actually, my pier over here, that's the only freight depot that you're getting in this map. I'm considering to maybe add another one somewhere up north, because, well, it's kind of far away from everything. Also, I think I could make this work by using the Pioneer DLC depot right here. Where the hell is it? This one. I will still have to test it out, but I think this thing can accept any type of good. And in addition to that, it has one very important difference from the other one. And when I say every type of good, that doesn't mean gold bars or water and seed pellets. Maybe it can accept seed pellets, I'm not entirely sure. But the thing is, it doesn't sell you or it doesn't provide you with any seed pellets. And I think that's a good thing here, because I would actually like people to come down to the pier. Maybe if I even eventually place it up here. But yeah, I like this one, since it is a very standout industry that we don't even have on any other map. I would like it to be quite a feature, and therefore it needs to be the only thing of its kind. But yeah, maybe having another similar location or similar industry in a different location as another option purely for selling would not be the worst idea either. But I would actually have to figure out if this thing works exactly the same in other regards. I don't know. Haven't used it yet. But I wanted to just, yeah, open it up for consideration. I also don't know if I were to make this available for download, could other people actually use it if they don't have the right DLC? I mean, I guess it would be working for the Montezuma. I actually put on the last new skin on that, because whenever else am I gonna be making use of that? Thanks, Railroad Studio. Wish it was a game base game option. But yeah, I don't know about the other stuff. The thing is, for my default layout, I already included a few sidings over here. But yeah, every track past this in this direction is new. That's what I placed for my playthrough. But yeah, just to start out with, I provided 6 regular logging cars, 6 sugarcane flat cars, and 6 sugarcane water cars. Just so that anybody who wants to play this can choose between starting with decent cars on the logging camp chain or go down the farming route. Should both be possible. Also, just for the funsies, I decided to add my little layout over here for the slightly automated oil field loading, and a little sign in order to explain the whole thing. So basically, this is a stopper setup for the Lake Tahoe car in order to quickly align it with the spouts. And all you need to do if you come in here, and to be clear, this is not tested on this map. I know there's a bit of variation, even if it tells you the same number when you go to the track length and all of that, which I used to line this up. But yeah, ideally you should only need to put down some switches over here, delete the side of the stopper that you don't need, and then you should be able to just push everything up against here, align everything once for the spouts, load all the cars up, and from that point on, pull back, kick through, put the next ones up here, and that should be just like on an assembly line. But yeah, that's just a little thing that I came up with a while ago. Anyways, yeah, we are pretty much not necessarily in the entire center of the map. We are a bit off to the east. Since we are talking about oil field already, let's go back and get to the refinery. I would have liked the refinery to be up in the mountains somewhere. Not on one of those super high plateaus, because I think they are just stupidly far up. But maybe if some of those mountains could have had a larger flat area where we could place down an industry and an extensive yard, but nothing like that does really work here. So I did the best I could, and the best thing I could find here was actually this place. So the industry is slightly lower than the surrounding area, meaning that you'll have to take care of that. There's a bit of space restriction. It's not really too tough, but I mean, the oil cars are quite heavy. Really, I would have liked it to be more on maybe somewhere around this height level. I think that would have been cool. I wouldn't even mind if it was closer to the oil field, even that. The main challenge here should be the height difference and not necessarily traveling horizontally, because you do that with everything else already. But yeah, there are so many spaces that if just flattened out, nobody would ever notice unless they are looking for a location for an industry, and at that point it would be absolutely golden having something like that. But yeah, all the uneven areas here, they don't really serve a purpose. Oh, could this one actually be something? Nope, look good from a distance, but completely unusable. Story of this entire map, really. And I think this is also the world border. Oh no, not quite, but should be coming up here somewhere. But yeah, there's really barely anything usable here. And that's just a shame. The few parts that I could find that are usable are, for example, this one over here. And I think I want to switch this one out because, well, the meatpacking plant fits quite nicely in here, but it also means traveling across most of the map in order to get the last step in the supply chain, and you are way better off just going with the cattle straight to the pier. So first up, I'm gonna clean this out a little bit, and I think, you know what, I'm gonna do that on another save. We don't really need to take care of this on screen here. But I think the better industry to put here, as long as it fits, will be the gold smelter. So something like this maybe. Would need a bit of a bridge in order to not have anybody die over here. But I think overall it fits decently well, and yeah, it's a bit on a higher plane than the default stuff, but nothing crazy, so that's kind of cool. And also I have another idea on where to put the industry that I just removed from here. By the way, on the other side of the mountain, I should have maybe gone through the tunnel. Ooh, could this be used for something? Definitely not. Again, this is how the map feels for me, as somebody who tries to come up with nice locations and everything. Oh, this looks nice. Could I use it? Nope, apparently not. Anyways, one location that I found, and you may already know this from my Pine Valley playthrough on the modified industry layout. Yeah, I put the coal mine up into the mountains again. Very precarious. I just noticed this thing over here, like what the hell. I don't really care for having a yard up here. You'll just basically have a track that can pass by the industry, and that's about it. But this allows you to take one track down, decide on your grade, decide on what kind of engines and how many cars you want to use. Maybe in one or the other direction you're gonna have to build a bit of runoff here in order to make everything fit how you want. But yeah, you can basically have your yard somewhere on the regular height level and just have one specific industry track coming down from the industry to the yard, and then do all the layover operations and that kind of thing in the coal mine base camp again. I think for an industry like that, it's a pretty cool thing, since you don't really need to use it too often, but often enough for it to matter and be kind of a fun, different thing in my opinion. So yeah, let's quickly talk about the sawmill, which is on the central lake. The sawmill is still, I think, the industry that has the most connections to other places. It definitely connects to more places than not. So I wanted it to be somewhere central so that the different journeys are never gonna be too long. And yeah, with how it's placed over here, first up, really tough making it fit at all. But the interesting thing here is that basically the input and output sides are completely separated from each other. Yeah, the output side, enough space to make a decent yard over here, maybe just have it pass through and go this way again, which is also to the logging camp. But from the logging camp, you will likely want to have a bridge across here, maybe just follow the shoreline a bit, and maybe at this point just bridge over and come around to do your delivery. But basically, you are building a split yard where the different sides don't really have much of a connection. So that should be cool and kind of interesting in its own right. I hope it will be fun. And yeah, while I don't know how much I'm gonna be playing on this map, I at least, once I get completely sick and tired of the wheat farm stuff, I at least want to try out this thing. Also, there is this nice little other area over here where we can find our original gold smelter, and you can already imagine what's gonna happen here. I'll be replacing this one with, where is it? The slaughterhouse, so that we have the location up here. It's gonna be tough, it's gonna be a bit tight, but I don't think we need much of a yard up here, so we should be alright. So yeah, gonna take the kettle up here, take the coal up here, and also have a few of the refrigerated cars. Maybe you can just park them somewhere around here. That would be up to anybody building a yard in this area. Certainly not the easiest location to deal with, but I definitely prefer this over it being almost half a map across in this direction. So yeah, I think this kind of streamlines the entire industry chain a bit. We have water going to the wheat farm, going to the cattle farm. I might even put the cattle farm more over here if I can move the pier. And yeah, basically go down to the pier, get your stuff, and from there it's just whoop whoop, maybe coming back here, but eventually bringing the stuff over here and then to the pier. I think that works out better. I don't want the journeys to be stretched out for no good reason, but I just came up with this idea of putting this industry here and the other one up north, so yeah, had to switch it out. Also, my Railway Express agency is also in a similar location to this, so I didn't really want to have the last two industries of the gold chain being a similar kind of deal. You're gonna have a longer trip from the gold smelter to the Railway Express agency, and then also a trip up to there, because that's gonna be quite the climb. But it's not gonna be 2 climbs in a row. I think that's gonna be more fun. But yeah, once again, when it comes to having decent industry placements here, I'm very strapped for what I can do. I found this place, and maybe I'll move this thing over or something to make it work better with any track being placed up here. But yeah, this thing is basically Fort Knox. Very hard to reach, very hard to break into, and this is where all the gold is gonna go. I still don't understand why we had to... The last time I saw this, it said 0 out of 999. Unlimited out of unlimited is one way to put it. But yeah, I get that they want to say that this one accepts gold ingots. But the unlimited out of unlimited is maybe a bit clumsy. But yeah, at least it tells you now that there isn't a certain limit until or before you have to basically delete it or something. Industries like that don't need capacity because you're just delivering it and then that's that dealt with. Anyways, I think this is all that I want to talk about. At least the most part here. I've also been keeping an eye on the Railroads Online unofficial Reddit, and my god, this has been going wild. Understandably so, because now a lot of people came back after seeing the 1.0 update. A lot more people bought it, some bought it on console, and yeah. Console version isn't even up to date with the PC version, so I think the last few updates before 1.0 have really put in a lot of weird bugs that needed to be taken care of, and 1.0 gets rid of some of them, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, having to deal with basically one of those early access versions is just gonna be pain. So there have been a lot of complaints, a lot of fair criticism, and in response to that, the Reddit moderators now changed the approach on how that whole thing is gonna be submitted and what they are gonna allow. It's maybe it's really just for the amount of stuff I've gotten now, but it might also be because, well, people are clearly renting on there, me included. But I think with how the game launched out of early access and yeah, all the DLC being available now, it's just it's a mess. And the devs deserve their fair share of criticism for it. No harassment or anything like that, of course, but criticism, they should have been more open for that for a long time. And yeah, the Reddit is basically one of those few places that allows people to speak openly. I've been on the Discord server for a while. I eventually left because every single bug report that I made had me talk to one of the moderators, and they very often weren't entirely enthusiastic about forwarding it to the dev. So there was a lot of just arguing back and forth if something that I submitted as a bug actually is one. Most famously for me, and I'm gonna quickly show you guys, I don't wanna drag this out too much longer, but yeah, the most famous one that they didn't accept as a bug report is this thing. The preview of the prop is smaller than the one that you place. See how that goes? They didn't even want to accept that this is a problem. Now it's the same size as it should be, but the first one is always a bit smaller. And that was a very unpleasant and unnecessary back and forth. And stuff like that, yeah. This is definitely shaping how I see the entire thing. The dev team hasn't been great about feedback and that kind of deal, and they are now getting much more of it. Because they can no longer claim that it's early access. They went out of it and the game definitely needed a bit more time in the oven. Like a few more years. Enough. Before I get too mean about the whole thing, let's end it here. Thanks for watching. Let me know your feedback on the entire thing. I still think that due to removing at least a few bugs here and there, it is overall in a slightly better state at least than before, but there's definitely still a lot on the table that should be taken care of. The list. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Till next time. Bye bye.